LeBron James is breaking records. What do you think is the most unbreakable record in Cleveland Guardians history? Comment below. We're going to discuss it on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. I want to take a moment and thank you for making Locked On your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And on today's show, there is another non-roster invitee to camp after we went through all of those yesterday for us to dig into. We're going to talk breakable and unbreakable records. We have coaching announced. I think there was just one to be determined on the entire coaching list we got sent. And then we're going to talk, like I said, the records and some realignment, as that was the hot talk of the day. I'm Jeff. That's Justin. My former co-host walked away. Sorry, no cat for now. Maybe he or she, I have two. Maybe one of them will hop in later if they like the discourse. But Justin, why don't you take it away?
So yesterday we talked on the show, if you listened, about Jose Ramirez playing the World Baseball Classic. I got some bad info there. I kind of, as the podcast who complains about social media literacy, kind of dropped the ball on that one. I didn't take it from just one source. I took it from a Twitter account and multiple articles, and I saw a lot of fans from the Dominican Republic and Latin baseball community get excited about Jose's participation as he announced. Obviously, I don't really know Spanish, so I couldn't listen myself and confirm, but there were a lot of articles going around on that. So probably not the greatest sources. So I apologize for that. He is reportedly not going to play in the World Baseball Classic. We won't know until February 9th, but it doesn't sound like that is going to be the case. You'll notice we changed some of our titles and descriptions elsewhere. But so if you listen, you heard that, just take it as a what if, I guess. And that's my bad for running with that and thinking it was going to be true. So appreciate the people who tipped us off to let us know that was probably some bad information, and were nice enough to keep that quiet with us. Do appreciate that. So apologies to all of our listeners for that.
Yeah, we all get got sometimes. And, it was just a situation where we thought it was a credible source, and I don't know. I should have pushed back a little more at points, maybe, or we should have spent some more time. But it happens. It's not the biggest. It's not like us. It's not like we came on. We're like Sean Murphy has been traded to the Guardians, and then it didn't happen. I think there are levels of these things. So it happens. We have certainly had other situations like this. It is not the biggest thing, but yeah, it's still a fun discourse. It's still fun to discuss what would happen if he's not fully ready for camp. If he didn't play, you can take everything we said and apply it to if he needs extra rest for his hand. So just look at it that way. Let's get into, it's kind of fun as someone who is, was a few years older than LeBron James, a kid I went to basketball camps growing up with, played with him in high school. That kid was much better than me, and neither of us were anywhere near LeBron. But he was, someone that it was fun to see him grow up. It was interesting to see him join the Cavs. And to think about as a kid at the time, me being worried about, hopefully he lives up to the hype. Well, I think that's safe to say it's happened. And with the scoring record, which many people thought was a unbreakable record, and it's kind of funny that a pair of unbreakable scoring records in winter sports could fall in the next, this season for NBA and next season for hockey. Having those kind of potentially happen at the same time is interesting. And then Cleveland. As I mentioned at the stop, I'm curious what people think is the most unbreakable record for a Cleveland baseball player. I have some thoughts on it. Probably career batting average is the most unbreakable record for a Cleveland baseball player, with shoeless Joe Jackson at a 375. My question is, what's more unbreakable, that or Addie Joss at a 189 ERA?
That's hard to choose. I don't know. Unless we go back to a dead ball era, I'm going to say Addie Joss, because maybe with the shift, somebody hits 375. I don't know. To have that as a career average would be wild. I don't know what your minimum has to be for that, but the fact that Roberto Alomar is sixth on that list at 323, and that's the only guy that's played in the last 50 years, that's pretty unbelievable. So I don't know. The 189 ERA just seems like we'd have to have a dead ball error, right? Like to get that low.
And I mean, the other thing with Addie Joss you have to comment on is like he died young. Like he literally died in spring training. He was only 31 years of age when that happened. So he also didn't have a thing where it could have, maybe risen as he continued to play. Like he had, it's one of those. Cleveland's got some unfortunate history between him and Ray Chapman. But yeah, it was a 31-year-old. He passed away. So just throw that out there. He's definitely an interesting player. One of the big what ifs that occurred in Guardians history. But yeah, I can't see either of those falling. I mean, the career wars are probably untouchable as well. A lot of that stuff that just different eras. I mean, career wins is probably out of reach at 266, if we're being honest. What'll be interesting, on the other side of things is, just looking through some of these numbers, Shane Bieber is number one in one category already and number two in another. So he is, this could change. We'll have to see, but Shane Bieber's already got some areas where he is the top guy. So, we talk about breaking records, but like he has at least three categories I can see already where Shane Bieber owns those categories. And
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's interesting. I look at the strikeouts per nine. I'm looking at that list, and almost everybody on that list has pitched in the last 5 years for the Guardians.
Yeah, Herb Score is the high guy who is not.
Yeah, he's the only guy. And Louis Tiantes is on that list too. He has not.
How about
like
Zach
even Zach
McAllister?
How is he on that list? Is that that's his career too, top 10? So it's not a single season. That is wild to me. So that just tells you the age. Yeah, that just tells you the age of pitching we are in. So maybe I'm wrong saying that the ERA thing couldn't be broken, because I mean, Jacob deGrom had a sub-2 ERA like a couple of years ago, didn't he? Not a pandemic year.
For a career though.
Career, yeah. But don't you think, like, okay, there's Jose Ramirez, obviously, we talk about the offensive records, but don't you think that if you're looking at which Guardians/Indians records can fall, given how Cleveland has developed pitchers, in the last decade or so, don't you think that it'd be obvious to point at pitching records to fall, like Daniel Espino or Gavin Williams or somebody else? Like the way they develop pitching, it just seems like that would be the natural thing to look at, right?
Like when you look at the sexy ones, though, it's like the one problem we're going to run into with a lot of these is just like pitchers don't pitch as much, and they don't pitch as deep, and they don't pitch as often. Yeah. So it's like if we're looking at like pitching records for like strikeouts, like we talk about strikeouts per nine. Yeah, the highest strikeouts per nine belongs to Shane Bieber right now.
That could easily fall to somebody else.
Yeah, and right now, like the highest win percentage belongs to Oral Hershiser, who's 0.7 higher than Shane Bieber.
He was like what, in his 40s when he was doing that? That was all because of the offense.
Late 30s, I want to say. Could be wrong about the Bowling Green graduate. Shane Bieber is 17th in strikeouts, but it's like Bob Feller at 2,581. I mean, CC's a base. Okay, here we go. Kluber got to third on that list at 1,461, so only 1,120 less.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to get to.
It's going to be impossible. It's going to be impossible.
You know what the hard part about that is that guys got to stick around too. Like we've already talked about how this is probably going to be Shane Bieber's last year. Like guys got to stick around to get these records. So any pitcher who comes up and is pitching this well and can get their way onto the record list, chances are they aren't going to end their career here. And if there's one thing I could point at too, I bet you this is what you're going to say. I'm going to steal it from you. If there's one record you could predict falling, I'll say what it's going to be. Emmanuel Clase is going to break Cody Allen's saves record.
Yeah,
that seems easy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like they've had some guys who've had brilliant peaks, but they haven't had I mean, I think one can make a case right now that Emmanuel Clase is the greatest reliever in this franchise's history after 2 seasons. I think you can legitimately start crafting that case. Like Cody Allen had a a really strong 5-year run, because the last year was not great. But it's like Doug Jones was great at peak and then fell apart. Even guys like well, and then he left and recovered and got back. But I mean, he was, he's one of those guys underappreciated for what he did. Jose Mesa, I mean, that was one of the greatest seasons a reliever ever had.
His run was short too.
Yeah, and then Mike Jackson. I mean, he was really good for that period that he had. It's I'm blanking on some other ones that I was going to talk about, but it's like the guys when they were really excelling, it was not a super long run. I mean, let's just mention this top 11 saves quickly: Cody Allen, Bob Wickman, always an adventure; Doug Jones, Chris Perez, Jose Mesa, Mike Jackson, Emmanuel Clase, Brad Hand, Ray Narleski, Joe Borowski, Steve Olin, who would have been much higher, of course. Again, a third Guardians player tragedy. I don't know if any other team has quite as much.
Are Joe Borowski's 51 saves, is that all one season? Was that all 2007?
I mean, he only had didn't he have, no, 45 that one year, and then 6 the next year. So he was terrible.
Mostly one season. Then the bulk of that was 1 year. And I'm just going to keep saying too, Cody Allen never got the kind of love he deserved in Cleveland.
No, I mean, he's the greatest right now. He's the greatest reliever in franchise history. It's just unfortunate. I mean, his career essentially fell apart after age 28. Like, relievers last forever. That's kind of the thing with relievers. Like, you're supposed to be able to pitch till you're in your late 30s because you don't have the wear and tear. And he just wasn't the same guy. Like, he was supposed to have another decade of piling up the saves, even if it wasn't. I didn't think it would be in Cleveland, honestly, but yeah, that's the one you can bet on. Offensively, it's just so hard. It's like Jose Ramirez is 8th in doubles, but Tris Speaker's got 486. So yeah, good luck with that. He's very he needs another 200 to get there. Can he average 20 for the next 10 years? I mean, maybe. You need 10 years at an average of 20. If we bump it up to 25 at 8 for 8 years, 30 for, I'm not going to keep doing the math, but you kind of get my point.
Don't ask me.
As much as I love Jose and as much as he's going to be the greatest third baseman in this franchise's history, it's going to be hard for him to even be top 5 in a lot of statistical categories when it's all said and done. Just because so many guys Nap Lajoie played a long time. Tris Speaker played a long time. Lou Boudreau played a long time. Jose Ramirez is currently 9th in position player WAR. He should pass Larry Doby this year by Baseball Reference. Maybe Joe Sewell. He's got a chance.
I hope he passes Joe Sewell this year. It's 5 wins. 5. The Guardians need him to get 5. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like eventually we'll see him get past Homie and Lofton, but I'm not sure if you can count on him you're assuming he probably gets to Boudreau, but I don't know. I'm not counting on him getting past Lajoie and Speaker. It's like those two at the top were almost like generational talents at their position in the era that they played in, and they played a lot, and it's hard to get past that. And you look at a lot of these things, if they could actually sign and keep someone, maybe hits, because Nap Lajoie is at only 2,000 hits. Like if someone was like a 2,500 hit guy, Jose Ramirez is currently, if you're curious, at 1,200. So I don't think, maybe he's got a chance at hits, maybe if he can keep it going, that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I guess I would bet on, like you said, Clase is the one that makes the most sense amongst the big counting categories. And then Jose Ramirez will always lead the team in helmets lost.
Oh, yes. No, I don't even know if he should even have to put that on there. He is number 1. There's no doubt. It's not this is not like a sexy award. Nobody's going to be, oh, this is such a fun award, and they're going to, get excited about it, but it's interesting. The one award I think he might be able to tackle is the extra base hit. So Earl Averill, is it Earl Averill or Averill? I feel stupid saying this.
I think it's Averill, but we know my pronunciation is pants.
Yeah, I should know better. I feel bad not knowing that. Someone will correct us. It's Earl Averill. I thought it was Averill. He's got 724 career extra base hits. Jose's at 514, so Jose needs a little over 200 extra base hits over the next 5 years, what is that? That's not that much.
200 over 5 years. So that's
40 extra base hits a year.
40 a year.
I think that's doable for Jose. It would be
doable.
close.
It's doable. It's got to be health.
Yeah, health for sure. Tris Speaker's in second there at 667. I think he'll get there. So that's like I said, it's not like a very exciting award, but he could come close to that one. And going back to your thing about position war and Baseball Reference, and while we both probably favor Fangraph's version of war for single season, if you're looking at historical data, we've both said that Baseball Reference kind of has them beat there. Getting to 34 more wins would be a lot. I think catching Lou Boudreau at 62 from where he is at 40 now, I think is probably doable. And after that, like you said, it's going to be health and how long he sustains his peak.
It's going to be difficult just moving into his 30s as that goes. It's like especially smaller guys, a little bit of a more rotund build. There's certainly higher risk of fall off. But where you're not going to fall off is when we talk about all the great coaches that help build this organization. And when we talk about one of our fantastic sponsors and friends, and those are the good people over at Built Bar, not Built Bar. Ooh, off day for me. FanDuel. Let's get it right. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features to make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. I think you and I both agree. Bet the over on the Guardians if you're into such things. The FanDuel app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you get your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
86.5 wins, right? That's what we said yesterday.
Correct. Jumping over to the pitching. Jumping over to the coaching. Wrong ing. It was definitely, you and I thought it was very interesting looking at who moved around, who are some of the names to know, people moving into roles, seeing Owen Dew and Junior Betances continue their rise as rising stars in this system were two of the ones that stood out. For me, Bradley Goldberg getting his first job he was a roving pitch instructor, I believe, former Ohio State pitcher, former Chicago White Sox pitcher, but then immediately being thrown to Double-A. That's unusual and also speaks to a rising star in the pitching system. We are having fun kind of looking at some of these names. It's always interesting because what are coaches? There's no one in here that was like a super accomplished player in their day, but often that's not what makes a great coach. It's more sometimes having struggled, having played through things, having to figure things out. And there's a lot of former players on this list. Who do you want to jump into and talk about?
Owen Dew and Junior Betances, like you said, are guys that are rising. The name of a manager doesn't stick out to me, but I will say, and I think I've said it on the podcast before, is Greg DeCenzo. He was the captain's high A manager in 2021 and 2022, and he would have been in 2020 as well, although he might have moved faster if the pandemic not cost him there. But he is now the bench coach in AAA. He's got a good relationship with the Guardians director of player development, Rob Cerfolio. So DeCenzo tried to recruit him at Holy Cross when DeCenzo was going to play college ball, I think. So those two have a good working relationship. They've known each other for quite a long time. I think it's interesting how fast he's moving. You're talking about a guy moving fast. Like you said, Goldberg is a great story because he's from Beechwood. I talked to him last year for the News Herald. He was a great interview, great dude. Goldberg came this close to pitching in Cleveland. He got called up for the White Sox, and it was like they were about to play Cleveland or something. They were in Detroit, and then when they were coming to Cleveland, he got like sent down or something. So he was like so close to playing in Cleveland. But yeah, he made his major league debut in Detroit, I think. So it was pretty close to home. But he's from Beechwood, Ohio. Went to Ohio State for a little bit. I know he started somewhere else, but he ended up at Ohio State. and coached at Ohio State. And now he's in AA coaching for the Guardians, which is amazing. So quick rise. But DiCenzo has gone from, so he was the head coach at Holy Cross for a long time. And then he was the captain's manager, like I said, in 2020, even though there was no season, 2021, 2022. And now he's the bench coach in AAA. So I think that's quite a rise for him. And then another couple of names people recognize, I think, are, if you followed the minor leagues for quite a while, Jordan Smith, who is a former prospect who I was extremely high on, and I was obviously wrong about, unfortunately. I get a lot of things wrong.
There was that period of time, I'll do my favorite thing, or everyone's favorite thing, and step on your words, where they, and a lot of people took this and ran with it, but I swear I was the one who pointed this out, that there was about a 5-year period where they took a up the middle player, at least someone who was drafted as a shortstop, second baseman, center fielder, pitcher, or catcher, with every day 1 or day 2 pick for 5 years. So it was like they were, it was something like 60 picks, and 59 out of 60 were up the middle players when they were drafted. The one guy who was not, Jordan Smith, third baseman when he was drafted. That was just a bit of fun random fact. If you ever heard someone mention like that, I swear that was back when I was the only one covering the Guardians draft in depth enough to know that. So, but yeah, no, he was, spent a lot of time getting to know Jordan when he was in AA. He spent a few years with Akron.
Yeah, I thought for sure he was going to be a good prospect, and not just because I thought, my own opinion, but other coaches who were coaching against the captains at the time when he was there. Like I said, he was a good hitter, but he, things didn't work out, and he is now the manager for Lynchburg, low A. And then who's the other guy I was going to mention? Double A too as well. Double A, maybe, but Double A. Daniel Robertson had a quick cup of coffee for the Indians back in 2019. I want to say maybe it was 2018. I can't remember. Little short dude. He was about 5. I don't know. Maybe I got maybe 5'9". Very popular player with his teammates and in AAA. People really liked him a lot. So he is the bench coach in Akron. He just came aboard, I think, to the system last year. So he's really liked. Odor stays in Akron. He's been there for quite a while. And Tony Arnold is pitching coach again in Lynchburg.
No, according to our sheet, they say he's new to that position in Lynchburg.
Okay, yeah, he's been their pitching coach at random levels throughout the last several years. So that's interesting. The rest of them I'd be nerding out on. I mean, if you're really into this stuff like we are. TJ Rivera was a former Mets player. He is probably the most accomplished player on this staff. We were just checking to see. And he just signed.
You want to talk about a rising star? He just signed like May of last year. So he hasn't even been with this team a year, and he's getting a manager position. So
in Arizona, and not only that, but he is external. Like usually they go with internal guys. Like I'm looking up and down the list. Like we talked about Lynchburg's hitting coaches, Ordemar Valdez. I remember him as a player. Anderson Polanco is the pitching coach in Arizona. I remember him as a player, and the bench coach is Erlen Serta. Remember him as a player. And Jan Rivera is the bench coach in Lynchburg. He was the bench coach in Lake County last year, and he is the son of the first captain's manager, Louis Rivera, who is the bench coach or one of the coaches in Toronto. And then Caleb Longshore, he has been in the organization for a while. He was the captain's pitching coach last year. He'll be the pitching coordinator throughout the system. Luke Carlin's still there. Grant Fink is still there. And if you're ever at a minor league game, if you're listening to this and you want to go to a minor league game for the Guardian system, if you ever get a chance to talk to any of the players or talk to any of the coaches, ask them about Johnny Gorel. Johnny Gorel has been around the system, this organization for like longer than I've been alive. And he just has some of the coolest stories, like who he faced, what he's been through, and just all the experience he's gained. Johnny Gorel is an absolute legend.
I believe he was the one too that was like really high on Santander. Like he was the guy who was given, I was hearing secondhand, like Johnny Gorel saying this is his favorite hitter since well, I'm not going to say anyone because I don't want to get in trouble, but since some big names that came through the system. So, it is. And
we probably should mention the Guardians hired their first ever female on-field coach, Amanda Kamikona. She is the hitting development coach of the Arizona Complex League. So they've had obviously like other staffers and support staff and women in those roles, like Anna Bolton and Jennifer Wolf, who have been kind of well recognized the last several years. They're in different departments, but Amanda Kamikona is the first on-field female coach in the organization's history. So that was pretty cool, I thought.
No,
and
100%. No, definitely. My general view on all of this is take the smartest people you can get and the most qualified, and who cares what their gender interests or likes are, as long as they're not criminals. That's my greatest mind.
That's a good philosophy.
No criminal record, and that's all I really care about. If it helps you win, it helps you win. It's I could go back to the Castellano days where I was like, whatever helps you win.
Don't get a book written about you called "Win at All Costs," right? Or winning solves everything.
Yeah, don't
the Astros book.
Yes, keep it legal, right? Let's not go crazy. They cheated, so that's what I'm saying. Get the greatest minds you can, and you're gonna be in a good situation. I don't care really anything else. But it's great to see representation at the same time. I don't want anyone to think I'm minimizing the importance of representation. So I think it is important. I think it's great because there are definitely probably thousands, maybe millions of ladies out there who can evaluate baseball better than me. So
right, I am positive she was qualified for the job. The Guardians are not hiring somebody who isn't qualified. Just
exactly. Yes. Yeah. No. This is someone who is incredibly good at their job. That's why this front office gets just eviscerated every offseason with people ripping and shredding it to pieces, and then they have to go find the next smart person. We are going to come back, talk about the Guardians had a small signing today, and we're going to talk about the realignment chatter that came. I know we talked about Negro League stuff. It's coming up. I want to do a little more research. Okay, I got some stuff written down. I'm beginning it. Probably going to happen next week. So if you're kind of like, hey, you promised this, I did get a few DMs and a Facebook message. I'm glad that people are excited for this. I want to make sure I give it its proper due. So I want to spend a little bit more time researching some players. I got a book coming. So I just want to say that is coming. But first, we're going to hear from a fantastic sponsor, and then we're going to come back and talk about who's the newest Cleveland Guardian on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Hey, everyone. Phillip Diehl, Cincinnati Moeller, Cincinnati, Ohio, July 16th, 1994. His birthday is close to mine, but I am 13 years older than him, 14 years older than him. I don't want to give him my birth year. Maybe I'm 16 years older than him. But let's just say that I am older than him. La Tech, University of Evansville to La Tech, drafted by the Yankees in the 27th round of 2016. Those are back during my salad days covering the draft for Scout. That's, I Justin and I had some off-air talk yesterday. That 2016 year, I believe, is the year that I had the worst radio interview ever. Thank you, Texas radio station, who had me come on and discuss things that I did not write about nor research because it was the draft and I was not focused on the Texas Rangers. Radio people, it's a great pleasure to go on, but sometimes lack of preparation just makes that. I still have nightmares 6 years later. Diehl is interesting when you look at his data. He's only got 3 years of data with Savant being good enough to give you stuff. Spins the fastball, but it has no velocity. He has no extension. He's fastball slider only. What's the deal with Diehl?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one. The numbers aren't great. I'm looking at some video as we're talking right now. Looks like he's tough on lefties. That's something I can really think of. I mean, the fastball definitely probably has some deception to it. It can be tough to pick up. He comes at a funky arm angle. Or a funky release. I don't know. It's nothing against Phillip Diehl. Maybe he'll end up surprising us, but it just seems like this is maybe a depth arm. We'll see what they have in mind for him, but they've got a lot of arms as it is. So maybe just a camp arm. I don't know.
If you want an upside bet with him, a reason to have some more hope that there could be more there, is he started out in the Yankee system when they were just awful at development, and he went to Colorado's system, which enough said. So he did get about a year with Cincinnati where he showed some positive growth. And, we'll see. If he's a depth arm, just be a nice depth arm. They could use that. But that's my 2 cents. They also are very good about spotting guys who are undercoached and coaching them up. So, listen, I have my issues with Jim Bowden, but I will give him credit for constantly being a stream of
content.
He's putting out content. Thank you. I could not think of the word. I'm like, not information, but content. he's a good content provider. Say what you want to say about him. And I think we've all thought about realignment because we all think at some point you are going to see expansion. And listen, I looked at the piece. We're not going to, I don't even remember who you put in Cleveland's division. But my big takeaway from all of it is like, I remember that it was like the White Sox and the Cubs in the same division, along with like, was it like the Twins and Brewers? I don't even think it was that. But like, you can't not have the Cardinals and Cubs together. Like if you're going to talk realignment, my big thing is you have to keep the rivalries that are there in place. Like that's first and foremost. Just putting all, and the other thing I think is bad is this idea of like, so Boston, the Yankees and the Red Sox have to stay in the same division, but don't throw the Mets in there. Like, let's balance out some of those big markets as well to help out some of these other divisions. Like Mets and Phillies should be, in my opinion, in a separate East Coast division. Baltimore should probably be in that one, I think. But I'd be curious to hear if you're a fan of another fan base. I know we do, a fan of another team, I should say, not a fan base, but if you are from another fan base, who are your rivals? Like Cleveland, I feel like it's just kind of year to year. I don't know if there is it. Like at points I've hated Detroit more or the Twins more, like in season, never the fans, just the teams. But yeah, there are some historical rivalries. I think is like, that's what has to be first and foremost, because you can't base this off of like, who's good, because that's going to come, go, shift, and change.
I mean, if you're talking about the Guardians specifically, and well, first of all, I'm not a fan of the Royals. Anybody who knows me knows that the Royals are like my least favorite team. I think it's all because of Whit Merrifield going back several years to that. It's a running joke at this point. I actually don't hate the Royals, but I love to say I do because of Whit Merrifield and just other random stuff. But how could you not want the Ohio Cup to be a divisional thing? You could go from the Ohio Cup being 5 or 6 games every year to being 11 a year. How could you not want the Ohio Cup to be played more times per year? You could have, if they play 11 games a year, you're talking the best of the best. There's no question who is deserving of the Ohio Cup.
I'm all for playing the Reds more, because traditionally the Reds are trash. Like, let's be honest. They had
I'm going to tell Jeff.
Go ahead. Like they had, I think even a fan of that team would admit, it's like they had 2 playoff seasons in there, and in between they have been a top 10 picking team. They have been really, really bad outside of like a 3-year run. And they had so many top 10 picks that didn't even work out. Like, that's why, it's good to see them do some changes in some of their development, but they were really bad. And for the most part of this last decade, that Reds team has been terrible. So yeah, give me the Reds. That sounds great.
You can only have 4 per division, right? Because it's 14 divisions.
Yeah.
All right. Give me the Midwest division. Give me Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Detroit. That's my 4. Give me those 4 for the Midwest division.
I would kind of like, part of me kind of would love to see Cleveland and Milwaukee in the same division. Not just because I live here, but like, they are, having lived in both cities. They're very similar cities. They have similar sentiments, not like sediment. But like they're very similar places. Like it'd be kind of a fun rivalry. I don't know. Growing up being a fan of Major League, I always kind of liked Major League was a part of like my life as a kid. Like it was the movie I wasn't allowed to watch, and then the movie, like as I got older, I got to watch. It was that thing. But it's like Bob Uecker being a part of that was always a part of, like, in my mind, he was somehow tied to Cleveland, even though he never was. Was it Mike Hegan? Didn't he mostly play for the Brewers before he became the announce guy? There's always been like some, Sal Bando finished off with the Brewers. We talked about him being an Ohio kid in the show. There's always been a weird connection. And I know it sounds totally self-serving to say it as well, but I know part of me would like the idea of a Brewers. Let me know, again, comment below. Am I being a self-serving person, or do you think that'd be fun as well?
And you're forgetting the big part. I know people like to hate Major League 2. Major League 2 was filmed at County Stadium in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's back-to-back days. We have referenced Major League 2 in this podcast.
People are like, I hate that movie. Here's a hot take. I don't hate Major League 2. I like Major League 2. I don't like how they replaced Willie Mays Hayes.
Yeah, I don't like the replacements, but I do appreciate Rube, the catcher in that one. He had some great lines. I'm just going to say. I don't hate that movie either. Major League 3, Back to the Minors. I tried to watch it once. Don't recommend that. don't. Sorry, Scott Bakula.
I don't hate that one either. I hate to tell you.
Okay, maybe I need to rewatch it. It's been a while. It might have just. I think because that's the one that's not even set with the Cleveland, isn't it? Like with the Cleveland, isn't it like the Twins or something? Yeah,
yeah.
I think
the only connection is I think Corbin Burnson owns maybe not. I think he owns the Twins. I think that's what it is. That's the only connection, but I don't even know if he's the same character. But it's also very hard. I'm going to say this. It's very hard for me to hate a baseball movie. Like, there are very few baseball movies I don't like. Like, I don't like Trouble with the Curve. That I didn't care for that one.
Never watched it.
Summer Catch, I gotta say, because it was probably a rom-com, not my bag. And then Mr.
Like
Baseball with
Tom Selleck. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, I watched that one with my dad. So I think that's probably like jaded or not jaded. It's like got that extra like it was one of those movies my dad let me watch when I probably shouldn't have watched it. Like right when that movie came out, like I should not have probably seen it unedited, and I watched it with my dad. So then that's probably why I like Mr. Baseball when I shouldn't. I did not like Mr. 3000, the Bernie Mac one.
You could take it or leave it. It's like, it's fine. I would, if it was like on TV, I had nothing else to watch.
No, you're right. It's definitely,
I put it on.
I watched a lot of Little Big League and Rookie of the Year, of course, being the right age.
Little Big League
for those. Yes. Yeah, a little bit. And listen, I love Rookie of the Year, but I think Little Big League and Rookie of the Year are on the same level. Most people don't say that. Like Rookie of the Year got a lot more hype. Little Big League kind of fell, because I was like the age when those movies came out, and I remember like missing Little Big League. I didn't even get to see it at the cheap run theater because it went through so quickly. But I
think Little Big League appeals to the nerd side of me, because you've got a kid trying to figure out like strategies and coaching and all these like different things. And he's like he's supposed to be like a fourth grader, and he looks like he's in sixth grade. I don't know, but he's just trying to figure out all these adult things and baseball concepts. Like, he's still in middle school, and he's managing a Major League Baseball team. That's like the dream right there. I guess it's nerdy for me to say that I would rather manage a team than play.
Well, and it also had the better thing, because like I remember, again, I'm totally the right age for these movies. Like I remember seeing the commercials for Rookie of the Year, and someone being like, he strikes out all the greats, and I can't remember who the first two got. Pedro Guerrero. I'm like, listen, I play RBI baseball, so I know Pedro Guerrero, but no one else is saying that. Whereas Little Big, like Pedro Guerrero, by the way, great hitter, Cardinals, Dodgers, I want to say. But Little Big League gets Ken Griffey Jr., which, I mean, how do you top that for a 90s era baseball movie?
And like Randy Johnson.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Carlos Baerga was in there.
Oh, is he one of the guys getting struck out?
Yeah, he's in there.
During that, where they're, the plucky team comes back and gets into that. It's also got the rare like fail, like unlike every other movie, that Little Big League, they do not make it to the postseason. They end up spoiler alert for a 30-year-old film, probably. But it's it has the natural ending from the book, not from the movie. If we're gonna put that out there as one of those things. But yeah, by the way, The Natural, I do love that, and I think my now that we've gone complete baseball movie, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Maybe my most favorite underrated baseball movie, and it might have been because I was just young when I saw it, but it really stuck out, was Bang the Drum Slowly, which I believe it's a Robert De Niro, I want to say is the pitcher who, I mean, pretty early on that this pitcher is dying. It's an interesting story. It's based off of, I believe, an award-winning short story that I should know who wrote that. But I would recommend Bang the Drum Slowly.
I've not seen that one. My underrated movie would have to be For Love of the Game. I love that storyline, but we were not supposed to get into favorite baseball movies today.
No, that's completely bonus.
Do you have any other thoughts on realignment, as we probably should be getting out of here? We could probably move. Yeah. We could probably talk more about that in the overtime.
We can talk some more movies in the overtime as well, probably. But yeah, I just think keep the rivalries going, make them interesting. Don't just load up all, like he had like the Giants, the Dodgers, the Angels, like spread out the big markets as well to like bring more attention to other teams. Like it cast a wider net. If we sit there and just put everyone in these little segregated groups, and it's like, it helps that the White Sox are in the Guardians division, because it means there's more eyes on them in general, because they have a larger fan base, because they have a larger size. Like, I don't like the idea of like, okay, let's put all these small markets here. Let's put all these big markets. No, spread it. That's my one take. Rivalries, spread out the big markets, and bring Montreal back baseball.
Yes, love that. Good note to finish on.
Yep. So rate and review, download daily. It helps. Click subscribe, all that fun stuff on the YouTubes. Comment, get into the baseball movie chatter below, and go Guardians, go. I almost clicked the end button instead of letting us have it. I literally had the mouse over end recording here, just for you people who are in the, like, you almost didn't get an after show. This was almost a done at that point, because for some reason I, instead of picking up my pen to write down the end time, I moved it over there. By the way, Bang the Drum Slowly from 1973 with, I was right, Robert De Niro. So I don't know.
I actually never heard of that.
Yeah, it's this pitcher is like dying, and Michael Moriarty is like his catch, or no, is the catcher? No, yeah. So Moriarty is the pitcher, and Robert De Niro is a catcher who's dying, who's always been kind of like not very good, and he kind of, as he's dying, like gets really good, and has like this like big thing, and like he kind of, Moriarty's character sees he's being used, and he kind of debates like, do I let him know, or do I just let him be happy? And they have some interesting discussions, and there was some fun baseball stuff with it. And yeah, I would recommend it. I'll see where if it's streaming anywhere, but I just stumbled upon it one day. I was just trying to see. Mark Harris wrote the novel.
So while you're looking at that, the realignment situation. So
yes.
The realignment that Jim Bound was talking about, I think, was Charlotte and Nashville getting teams, not the Expo. So he had Nashville getting a team and Charlotte getting a team, which I think makes sense. Although you would think one of the teams out west would get a shot like Portland or something. But
yeah, because he listed the A's as the Oakland/Vegas A's.
I don't think Oakland. I don't think Las Vegas A's would work. I just don't like. The Vegas Raiders aren't doing well because they're not from Vegas. Like, you know why the Vegas Golden Knights are doing well? Because they were an expansion team. They started there. You're moving another team there. People don't care. I'm sorry. They don't. It doesn't work. The Nationals, I think, have done well. But the Nationals, they had a history of baseball in D.C., so it wasn't like it was a totally new concept, whereas Vegas has only had minor leagues. But that's not the point here. So if you're talking about not grouping all the small markets together, which you have a good point. So Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Cincinnati and Detroit would be a very bad fitting if that were the case.
I just put all the small markets in one corner.
Yeah. Well, now that you said that, I agree. I think that makes sense. That's probably not a good way to do it. So you're right. The White Sox would have to remain in the division. And you probably couldn't consider the Brewers either, because the Brewers are also like kind of a mid-tier market. Although I feel like the Brewers have a really good fan base. I don't know. Maybe it's just people I know.
I mean, I my first Brewers game ever was long before I moved here. I was visiting. I had a buddy I'd go visit every year in Chicago. His wife was in the military, and they lived north of the city at that big military grouping. And we drove up, and this was the year the Brewers were terrible. I saw them like one pitch away from a perfect game. Max Scherzer, Carlos Gomez hits a solo shot home run. Like, that's the only hit. It's the only base run in the entire game. It's like the seventh inning, and they were terrible. That team, like, there was like no talent. It was because this was after that developmental team that, it's like the that 2011 draft. They had 2 first rounders, the greatest draft ever, and they didn't get anything out of it. They just did terrible for years. But I say all of this to say it was 3/4 filled, and the parking lot was tailgating before the game. Like, out.
That's what I've always heard is the tailgating. Yeah, I've always heard that about the Brewers fans. Okay, so that wouldn't work. I don't know. What about?
I think one big market is okay. Like, I don't think you have to. There's not enough big markets for everywhere. But I think, like, if you do Chicago, Cleveland, and then like
Detroit.
Okay, so Detroit. Detroit, and then
I guess you go
Milwaukee or
Cincinnati.
Cincy. Yeah. And then I think, like, you do that Philadelphia, Pittsburgh together with the Mets and maybe Baltimore. Like, then you got Baltimore's a pretty big area, but you still get the New York and the Philly for them. But you want to keep the Mets Philly rivalry. You got Atlanta in the South with like the Marlins. Maybe
Rays.
Consider the Rays.
Rangers.
Rangers feel too far away, but that's a problem. There's not a whole lot.
But they're south. They're south. You can't put them in the west. Same with the Astros. You can't put them in the west. I guess the Astros could be in the south, and Texas could be, because I think Houston's further east than Dallas. So I guess you could do it that way. But that's a tough one where Texas goes. Like, they don't have anybody.
No, they're not a natural.
I guess you could do like.
Maybe you send Baltimore in that, and it's more of like a seaboard thing, like Baltimore, Atlanta.
Well, Charlotte would probably. Charlotte team, they're in there.
Oh, Charlotte's weird for an I mean,
yeah.
I just feel like Portland has been that place that's been trying for so long, and like, again, but that's the problem. If you get Montreal, like, okay, so you're gonna do what? Montreal, Toronto.
Well, Nashville's getting a team no matter what. This is what. Right now, I think it's pretty foregone. Nashville. It depends on who the second team is.
Nashville would be the fourth team in that, right? Like Nashville with Atlanta.
South.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then.
So wait, Nashville. You're talking about Nashville, Atlanta,
Tampa, Miami.
Okay, I could see that. And then the rest of it, you figure out across the Eastern Seaboard. So what do you do with Texas and Houston and Arizona? Yeah, well, who's the fourth team there?
Texas.
San Diego. Texas, Houston, Arizona, San Diego. You go from that south to southwest, the Southwest Division. San Diego's the lowest on the California side.
I'm pulling up an MLB teams map, so I can just literally kind of look at where everyone's located.
Putting Colorado in there. Putting Colorado
I think
seems unfair.
I don't know. I like at the same time, like Colorado is literally not near anyone. Like anyone who gets Colorado is host. Like. Colorado is the team that is farthest from anyone. It's the same thing. Like Colorado and Seattle are like not near anything.
No, and they would probably be in division together, Colorado and Seattle. I don't know. It would probably between San Diego and Colorado for that. But if you're going to do like a Southwest division, it's got to be San Diego. They're the furthest south, and they're already close enough to Arizona, and then
the only cruddy thing is
Houston.
Like then you have to put all the other California teams together. That's
stupid. Yeah. Then you'd go Colorado and then all the California teams together.
What about instead of the Padres? I mean, San Diego is like, well, it's not that far from LA in the grand scheme. So it's like maybe you put like the Angels or the Dodgers in that grouping, and then you have San Francisco and Oakland. Well, you want to keep San Francisco with the Dodgers, so you have to keep those two.
And you got to consider
Oakland, San Diego, and then then I think you got to put maybe Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim go with Houston, Texas, and Arizona. So it's very similar to kind of that.
I know, but that's not a geographically great pairing. No, I was assuming like you'd have a Portland team. Like let's assume there's a Portland team. I that's what I don't understand. He said Charlotte. I know this is just a thought exercise.
Well,
but you're putting two teams in the East Coast.
Yeah, it's like if you do Portland, Seattle, obviously make sense together. But then do you do but then again, you don't want to break up the Giants Dodgers rivalry. That's like a real rivalry. So it's like you can't just take the no-Cal baseball teams, or the other ones. And then like the other thing, it's like if we go back, it's like we talked about putting Boston and the Yankees together. It's like who is it? Toronto? Then who's the fourth in that alignment? Like is it Pittsburgh? Is it Pittsburgh and Toronto?
God, that's not fair to Pittsburgh. Wow, they would just be in the basement every year.
They never get out, and then like the other side of it is like
then you have to shove Baltimore and the Nationals in the same division, and that's not a good idea.
And like geographically, I mean, just looking at a map here, like Houston and Texas are probably closer to the Braves and the Rays than they are to maybe even arguably to Arizona, because they're on the other side of they might be closer to. I don't know. Let me do the thing while you talk. I'm going to see what the distance is.
Okay. I'm thinking like Eastern Seaboard, like I don't know. Toronto. Would you do Toronto, Baltimore, Philadelphia? Because to me, Philadelphia and Baltimore would be a really fun rivalry to have together because I feel like that's interesting. Then you could do like Washington, Charlotte, and Atlanta, although I still think Atlanta, Houston, Texas, and then you split up the Florida teams because I know we keep saying to keep the rivalries together, but let's be honest, the Marlins and Rays are not rivals.
Yeah. So by the way, not even close. To go from Minute Maid Park to Truist Park, I didn't realize that's the name of theirs. That's under 12 hours. It's 11.5 by car. Going from Minute Maid Park to Chase Field is 17 hours. So it's not even a close comparison.
Wow.
So they're like Arizona. It's almost so. I think as we get into this, just kind of doing like the math on it. So we assume Portland maybe is one and Nashville is the other. So if you have Portland, Seattle, or I'm sorry, we have Portland, Seattle, and then I guess Anaheim and Oakland, and then or yeah, no, let's not do Anaheim. Let's do Seattle, San Diego, Portland, and Anaheim, and then you can do
Oakland?
Giants.
No.
No, I go the Los Angeles Angels, and then you can do the San Francisco Giants, the Oakland A's, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Arizona Diamondbacks.
So what do you do? The Twins, Rockies, and Royals in the same division?
Twins, yes.
And the Cardinals?
No, because you want the Cardinals with the Cubs. Yeah, you got to keep the Cardinals and Cubs together. So it's like, then I think at that. So if we're doing, so what I think is you do. Okay, so then as I continue to work my way, I'm working my way.
I need to write this out.
So I'm working my way east, and then what I think you do is you do Houston, Texas.
Is that really a rivalry anyway?
But I mean, it's just location wise, again, just to make it easier on players. So you do Houston, Texas, and then I'm tempted to say Florida and Miami.
Really want to keep Miami and
again just ease of travel.
Okay.
Yeah. And Houston's both Houston's a big one. So then for Atlanta, Nashville, Washington, Baltimore. Because Washington, Baltimore.
I don't love the idea of having Baltimore, Washington the same. I know there's probably a rivalry there, but I also don't love the idea of doing that in the same division. That's why I said Philadelphia and Washington make a lot of sense, or Philadelphia and Baltimore, because Philadelphia and Baltimore is so close.
Yeah, like I said, you just want to keep the Mets and the Phillies as rivals. And so it's like if you do Mets, Phillies.
But aren't the Mets and Braves bigger rivals over the years?
I don't know. If you're a fan, let us know below. I'm kind of curious about that. When I lived in New York, my Mets fans hated the Phillies more than the Braves.
Okay.
I'll say that I lived there from 2007 through 2013. So in my 6 years, it was like there's just a hatred for Philadelphia.
I bet you if you ask people who grew up around fans of those teams in the 90s, though, I bet you they'd say the Mets.
But that's where my fans.
I think the Mets fans hate the Braves from the 90s because of like Chipper Jones and all those teams.
No. Like, I mean, they dislike them, but the overall hatred was higher for the Phillies. Like I'm in my 40s. Like I was the 90s. I was like, 10, 11, it's like I graduated from high school in 2000. My buddies, when I went to New York, were Mets fans, were the same age. More hatred for the Phillies. And honestly, more hatred for the Yankees than the Braves. Braves were about third. That. Yeah.
So what do you do with the Twins, the Royals, and the Rockies? Who's your fourth?
Twins, Royals, Rockies.
That's a bad division, by the way. Like you're talking about you need to have one big market team there. None of those teams work. They're so bad. That's a bad division.
So I'm gonna throw a crazy idea. White Sox, because Twins and White Sox do have a bit of a rivalry.
Well, what about who goes into the Cleveland spot?
Cleveland. I think what we do with Cleveland and Cincinnati is Detroit and Toronto.
You think Toronto a big enough market to carry that division with the rest of them? But it's also international.
It is, but Toronto is a huge market. Like that is
okay.
That market gets underrated for how big it is.
Well, they don't have a second team to root for anymore either.
Yeah, in Canada. So it's like, so I know then that leaves Cardinals and Cubs and Brewers.
Who's your fourth there?
Your fourth there is either going to have to be Cardinals, Cubs, Brewers. You either got to grab the Pirates or the Braves. I lean towards Pirates, which again, then you just have essential again. So then you would have for your East Coast one. Then we do. So you got to do Braves and Nashville as one combo, and that has to go with either Yankees and Red Sox. And then on the other side, you've got Mets and Phillies. And then
that's all big market. Then so you're shoving two big markets into one division.
Well, no, because Mets and Phillies, then with Baltimore and Nationals. Like at this point in time, that's what's left. So it's either Mets, Phillies, Baltimore, Nationals, or it's Yankees. Because we got the two New York teams, Philadelphia, Nashville, Atlanta, Baltimore. So it's like, yeah.
I think the rest of it all works. What you're saying, I think the only division that gets
I
absolutely
think
screwed is that Twins Rockies. Who did I say?
White
Twins
Sox.
Rockies Royals.
Royals, White
Yeah,
Sox,
well,
yeah.
that division stinks. So that's the only people that get really screwed there, unfortunately.
But I think what I kind of
division.
want, what I decided I want to do is personally it would be Yankees, Red Sox, Braves, and then I don't know,
Phillies.
maybe the Nationals. No, you want to keep the Phillies with the Mets.
Right.
But then you get the Braves who start out as the Boston Braves. So, or we could do the Boston, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and just have that little circuit. Put together all the old teams. Have the Nationals with what the Texas Rangers were where the Senators went. We could look at it another way, but I don't know. Like the way I have it set up now would be, I mean, poor Nashville. They would never do that to Nashville. So it's like Nashville, Atlanta, Mets, Phillies. Then that keeps some of those rivalries in place. Again, kind of poor Nashville. And then you got Red Sox, Yankees, Baltimore, and Nationals. Yeah.
I've got a great idea for tomorrow as we're wrapping this up. I'm going to write this out. I'm going to give my list tomorrow when we come back. But I have a great idea for tomorrow's show to talk about expansion and realignment. I have a great topic for tomorrow's show. So as we're wrapping this up, I think you're going to want to tune into Thursday's show. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah. So that's there. I do want to throw one more thing to go back to Bang the Drum Slowly. I pulled up a review. Roger Ebert said that it is the ultimate baseball movie. So just throw that if you're a Roger Ebert fan. So you got some geography in today's show. We found out that, going from Texas to the east side of Texas to Atlanta is shorter than going to Arizona. We talked about some history in terms of the Guardians. We talked about some new additions. We talked about projections of realignment. We had it all. We talked about LeBron James and record breaking way back at the beginning of this.
Yes.
So this was definitely a show that no matter what we talk movies, whatever you like,
baseball
we had you
movies.
covered. Baseball movies. Let us know the movies we forgot. We definitely did. There's so many. My buddy Andy's listening. You can go ahead and drop in and defend Summer Catch. As I feel like, I don't know if he loved that movie as much as he loved Jennifer Beal at the time, or Jennifer. No, is that her name? Jessica Biel. Jennifer Beal was Flashdance, right?
In Fever Pitch or not? I'm not Fever Pitch. Summer Catch.
Yeah,
Jessica Alba.
No, Biel, right? The one that's married to the
Jessica Biel. You're right, Jessica Biel. Yeah. Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
That was also Trouble with the Curve. I think she was in that, wasn't she?
No, she's not because isn't Justin Timberlake in Trouble with the Curve?
He is, but who's the female lead in that? And that is
Amy Adams.
Is she the female lead in that? I don't know. I'm sorry. It wasn't a good movie.
I never watched it. I'm just trying to remember like the pictures.
Amy Adams. You're right. It's Amy Adams. I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of that movie. My favorite baseball movie of all time is probably, I know it's going to be unpopular. If it's not Little Big League, it's Fever Pitch. I know it's.
I don't think I've watched Fever Pitch.
It's good.
I've watched the British one, because that's the funny thing. Like Fever Pitch is that movie is based on a British soccer movie because it's the guy who wrote It's the author Nicholas. He wrote High Fidelity, like the John Cusack movie High Fidelity. Did you ever watch that movie?
I didn't watch it. I know it.
It's the same writer, and it's about his love, I believe, with Arsenal, because Arsenal was like the Boston of soccer, and they never won. So at the end of that movie, they win, and it's the same story. Essentially, but yeah, it's a soccer movie. It's actually, they just took a soccer movie and recast it as a baseball movie.
That's wild. That's again, I'm learning new things today, Jeff. I'm learning all new things.
It's the fun of having a former multi-time Quiz Bowl champion on the show. I am full of worthless information, whereas I will forget how to pronounce everyone's name. So hey, you get that. Nicholas Hornby. Nicholas Hornby, maybe is his name.
Again, you got me there. Trivia. The only trivia I would probably win in is sitcoms and maybe some baseball, depending on how far back it goes. But sitcom, any sitcom, I could probably throw out a good trivia. I dominated my fiance's cousin and friends trivia over the summer. I'll just say that I can put that on my mantle. That's about all I can really stake a claim to.
No, it had some.
It's not
You know,
much.
we did not mention Pride of the Yankees, which I don't think I've seen. We didn't mention Bull Durham, which is I watched, got that one shown to me a lot. Those
Bull
are the two
Durham's
bases.
great.
We did not get into those as much. I also really liked the Jackie Robinson movie, and I also like 61. Right? Yes. So
Yeah,
the recent ones have been
was
good. Yes, 42 and 61. I get number confusion.
Even if
Didn't
I
want to say
think
the wrong
42
number.
was a little whitewashed, but yeah.
Yeah. But there we go. We've had a lot of fun sports movie talk. Let us know the ones we missed. I guess Damn Yankees is probably a movie. All those popular musicals. I've never seen that one. And hey, I just got a free swear in, which I'm probably not supposed to do, but it's a title of a famous musical from like the 40s. You know, it's I didn't think about it after I said it, but whatever Lola wants, Lola gets, and Lola wants this episode to end. So thank you for listening, rating and reviewing, downloading. It helps. Anything you can do to help the show, share with a friend, family member, let it run in the background of your Chromebook while you're teaching if you're not using your computer, like some people might do. But thank you all again, and go Guardians, go.